Welcome to Culture Over Coffee, a podcast focused on improving company culture and fostering employee engagement. Every week, we chat with experts and thought leaders about the latest proven practices to reduce regrettable turnover, increase productivity, and retain key customers. So pour a cup of your favorite brew and join us. I'm your host, Beth Sunshine, SVP at Up Your Culture. Listening might be one of the most underrated skills in leadership. It's also one of the most transformative. In this episode of Culture Over Coffee, Catherine Badalamente, President and CEO of Graham Media Group, joins me to talk about what it really means to lead as listener-in-chief and how active listening can strengthen trust, reveal hidden cultural challenges, and help employees thrive. Catherine shares powerful takeaways, including why real listening goes beyond surveys and meetings and how to make it a daily intentional practice, how toxic high performers quietly erode the culture, and what leaders can do to hold people accountable without sacrificing performance, and why tools like growth guides, which are regular one-on-one career conversations, can uncover employees' true goals and strengthen loyalty across every level of the organization. So hi, Catherine, and welcome to Culture Over Coffee. I am really glad you could join me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
It's going to be a good one. So as President, CEO of Graham Media Group, you have led your organization through tremendous change while keeping people and purpose at the center of it all. I talk to people who work at Graham fairly often. You've become known by many for your open human leadership style, one that really reflects genuine curiosity and care. So I'm excited to be able to spend some time with you, really dig into how that mindset shapes your culture and your leadership every day. You ready to get started?
I am.
Okay, good. We'll jump right in. And I want to begin with the heart of it. We sometimes call the CEO role the listener-in-chief. And I'm curious, that term, what does that mean to you, listener-in-chief? And how has your approach to listening evolved as you've grown as a leader?
I think that something I've always known, I think it's one of the things that has helped me be successful over the years is to listen to the customer. I think that businesses that listen to their audience and their customers are the most successful. And so my background is in sales, trying to hear what the customer's needs are, trying to figure out how to solve their problems, listening to the things that keep them up at night. That was what helped me be successful over the years. And so applying that to my role as CEO was I think somewhat natural. I think the listening is a lot different when you're in a role like mine. I had to be much more, I think I had to make it a priority. I have to really take the time to make sure that it is something that I'm doing on a daily basis. And the listening comes in all forms. It can be me taking the time to sit down and have a conversation with an employee. It can be through employee feedback surveys. It can be when we're doing a town hall meeting and I'm just opening up the mic for anyone to ask me any question and basically allow them to ask me anything. It is traveling to our stations and actually making sure that I hear from as many people as possible. So everything from one-on-ones to, being in a group setting and hearing what's really, the things that are good and the things that are bad so that I can help solve problems.
It's interesting, the correlation between listening with a customer for needs and, how you can bring a solution that works and listening like you're describing it today. I appreciate that comparison. And it was also interesting to hear you list all the ways that you listen, from surveys to town halls to one-on-ones. Leaders in general hear a lot through all those ways, meetings, data, just ongoing constant conversations, but truly listening is something deeper. So as a follow-up to that question, and one that I think you're really a pro at, how do you move from simply hearing input to really understanding what people are saying? And with so many things competing for your attention, how do you make space for that level of focus that I know you do make space for?
I think I mentioned it has to be a priority. And I think that, one of the things that I've learned over the years is that if you're not taking the time to do it, then you're going to miss really important information that is going to take you away from, I think, winning. And so I think that I can do better. I think it's something that you have to work really hard at. And sometimes when you get busy and there's a lot coming at you, that you will forget to do something that is as important as listening. And you mentioned this idea of listening to your customer and being successful because of that. One of the things that we've worked hard on over the years, and we had help actually from you as we were doing this, was to make sure that our messaging was important and that people understood what our vision was and what our mission was. And so one of the things that I'm constantly reiterating and what our vision statement is that we help our communities thrive. And the way we define community is that it's our internal community, our employees, it's our audience and the communities in which we live. And then it's also our customers or our clients. And so having that sort of be the thing that we continuously are championing and against, all of the things that can be distractions so that people are focused on what really matters. It all, at the heart of it is listening to those really important communities and trying to figure out how we can better serve them. And so it is just something that has to happen on a daily basis. And I really do encourage my employees. I know it's hard to say when you're a CEO, it's an open door policy, but I really, I send me a message, come and see me. Don't be afraid to walk down the hall and take some time, because I feel like when I actually have those conversations with our employees, something really good comes out from it every single time.
Yeah. I remember when you first really landed on helping our local communities thrive, and I loved the explanation, kind of that, I don't know if that's a play on words. I'm not sure what the right term is, but the fact that you can define community in so many ways, and how you help your local community, as in businesses, thrive looks so different than how you help your viewers thrive, which looks so different than how you help your employees thrive. And the great connector, you said it so beautifully, is really listening and understanding those communities. Speaking of that kind of intentional listening, you can learn so much more, things that don't show up in reports. They don't show up on a dashboard somewhere. They're kind of the more human element that you can tap into. So I'm curious, have you ever learned anything, maybe exceptionally surprising or maybe exceptionally meaningful, but an aha moment by really listening to employees, something that maybe changed your perspective, maybe changed a decision moving forward?
I have a couple examples of that. One, probably the biggest that comes to mind, is something I think that I've shared in the past, which was I had an assumption that everyone that worked at Graham, just because of sort of our reputation, the things I really believed when it came to the way others thought about us and the industry and otherwise, was I thought everyone was super happy.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought that there was not a lot of discontent at Graham Media Group. And then we ended up doing our first employee feedback survey, and it was earth-shattering. I'll put it that way, because it truly was, in how many of our employees, how many of our teammates were not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I've struggled with just so much because I'm someone who immediately wants to try to figure out what is the problem, figure out using data and not just feelings, how what really is happening, and then provide a solution or try to work towards a solution or get others involved in trying to figure out what the solution is. And so I think that it was eye-opening because I think what it did was there were some really big cultural issues. There were some really big issues that I just was not aware of. And the one that I always point out to everybody was that there was sort of an inconsistent or an uneven balance of workload, and that there was a lot of people that maybe had been worked around over the years that had been here for a really long time, and they might not necessarily be pulling their own weight. And then the ones that were what I would call the good soldiers, the people who were really dedicated to trying to make Graham Media great and fulfill our promise to our communities, they were just getting more and more work dumped on their plate. Mm-hmm. And so it was probably one of the biggest learnings I ever had, which was this just assumption I had that everyone has bad days and things can be tough, and we all know that there's big challenges in our industry, but everyone was just thrilled to be working for Graham Media Group. And boy, did I figure out fast that there was some really big issues that we needed to address. And we continue to try to address them and fix them. And they're not issues that can be fixed overnight. So that's one example. Another example, I think, is a really important one. One of my biggest lessons over the last couple of years was even doing growth guides that we learned about through our partnership with Up Your Culture. And that's where I sit down and I actually hear from the people who directly report to me what, amongst other things, what, they really are focused on when it comes to their career, where they want to go in the next few years, what they want for their long-term, their long-term goals in terms of their individual careers. And again, I made assumptions. Based on the relationships that I had with certain members of my team that reported up to me, that where they wanted to go, the things that they wanted to do. And I think more often than not, I found out a lot of really important information that I just didn't. It's the kind of thing that doesn't come up on a daily basis until you actually sit down and ask the questions. And so again, it's something that you have to do often and you have to do it consistently. And because people's goals might change too. But one of my teammates, said, I want to run a TV station. And he had been working on the corporate side for a very long time. And I thought, and even in the meeting, sitting with him, I said, I had no idea that you wanted to be a general manager. You do? You want to be a general manager? Yes, that's what I want to do. It's one of my goals. It's one thing I really want to do in terms of feeling like I've done a lot of different things in broadcasting, but that's something that I feel passionate about and something that I think I really want to explore and something that I can be really good at. So if I hadn't had that conversation with him, I wouldn't have my newest general manager in place. So it's those sorts of things, I think, that, until you sit down and actually listen and make it a priority and make it part of what you do on a day-to-day basis, that important things will be missed. Very important things.
Such powerful examples. Two totally different examples, but that both have that common thread of, if you didn't ask the questions outright, either on an engagement survey to better understand workload or on a growth guide to better understand personal growth goals, you may not ever know. So I love that you're really reinforcing the importance of not assuming, which, by the way, we all do. Human nature is to assume, A, that people think and behave and feel the way you do, and B, that you can look at the surface level and have a pretty good picture. We all feel that way, and yet you took the time and you did ask those questions. And I love hearing the learnings and just all the good that has come from that. So you may have touched upon this a little bit in those examples or in previous questions, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because you have such a valuable perspective. I'm curious, are there some common blind spots that senior leaders or business owners or CEOs can develop if they're not intentionally listening, if they're not making sure they ask questions one way or the other?
One that I've seen happen time and time again is sometimes having toxic high performers.
Yes.
The people that continuously deliver results, but that may be actually impacting the business in a big, big way, impacting the culture in a big, big way. And then I think, your employees lose trust when you see someone who continuously is acting in a way that I think we would all agree is not something that you want to model yourself after. Yeah. And then they continuously get either a pass or they get, attention, or they get favored because of it. That's one that I've definitely seen over, and it's not just the damage to the culture and the loss of trust, but it can actually drive away other team members and talent that you really, really value too. So, and then the worst case scenario where I've actually seen it happen is where it can create even legal issues that, eventually. So, I think that is one that I've definitely encountered. Again, it's sort of related, like you said, to what we were just talking about, which is working around sometimes the people who aren't necessarily the model team members, and then the people that you really, really value and have high value for what they contribute, not just to the culture, but to the organization as a whole, that they're the ones that are actually bearing the brunt of having to be surrounded by people that aren't necessarily doing the right thing or pulling their own weight.
That's a biggie, a really great example. I recently was working with an organization on identifying core values, and they totally made me laugh just thinking about what you just said, because they decided one of their core values would be no jerks allowed. And I thought, core values are supposed to guide you, help you make decisions, help you measure any given thing that's happening to decide right or wrong. And you're exactly right. People don't want to see even extremely successful people. They don't want to interact with them if they're toxic. So really good point.
Sorry to interrupt, but I was going to say what I like the most about that core value is it's not just no jerks, it's no jerks allowed, which is right. The part that's most important, because it's allowing for jerks to exist, which is I was trying to actually, communicate is that we can't allow for jerks to be here.
That's exactly right. And I think you come from the sales world, so you can, really understand how hard it is sometimes when your top biller is performing. You need the revenue. They have a strong book of business, and yet they're a jerk. It's really hard to know what to do in that moment. So I agree that the no jerks allowed being the key word is a goodie. It definitely, it provides the compass, the roadmap.
Yeah.
Now we have talked, you and me, you've heard the importance, probably even beyond just our conversations, about how important it is that people feel heard. We call it, having a valued voice. But sometimes the quietest voices, those who don't raise their hand, they don't speak up, they attend your town hall meeting, they have all sorts of things going on in their mind, but they don't say anything. Sometimes it's those people who have the most meaningful insights. I know you've gotten really good at this. I'm curious if you could share, how do you make sure voices from every level, especially those who are closest to the work, and those who don't necessarily always share, how do you make sure that they're heard and acted on?
It goes back to being very intentional about your listening, and if you are in a group setting, making sure that those that are, not speaking up or maybe aren't the loudest voice in the room, that you are going out of your way to make sure you're asking them to contribute to the conversation in a big, big way, making them feel comfortable to do it. I think that going back to, what what is most important is for people to feel safe and that they can share something, and sometimes even share the things that might not be, as a leader, something that we want to hear, the hard stuff. Making people feel safe in those environments, and then really creating, I think, an environment where everyone understands the goal isn't to get people in trouble or for there to be backlash because of those conversations, but the goal is for us truly to make it a better work environment for everybody, which in turn makes us a better, more successful company. So modeling that behavior over and over again, because I think the first time that you are in those kinds of situations and you don't respond in the way that is going to make people feel comfortable, and that sharing isn't something that can lead to unintended consequences, is that, that's just something that you have to, I think over time it gets better, because people are going to be testing you as you are saying all the right things, but, not necessarily actually doing the right things.
Yeah. Earning their trust is so key. I also, while you were talking, you made me think about what you said at the very beginning, which is how that engagement survey affected you and how you didn't realize that there was such an imbalance in workloads. And I think you said it was earth shattering. And I get that. And yet you continue to survey, because again, you're demonstrating the importance of making sure people are heard, and you're demonstrating the fact that you act on what you learn. And I think that also really shapes your culture.
Yeah, the employee engagement surveys, I talked to lots of other leaders. One made me laugh really hard a few months ago, because I asked a question, or I said something about employee feedback surveys and just how hard it can be. I've talked in the past and said I've gone through like the 7 stages of grief with them, because of the fact that it is so hard sometimes to read and see everything. You feel it can be overwhelming. And the leader, this other CEO that I was talking to, is like, oh, no, we don't do those. We don't do those. Like I told everybody, there's no way that we're going to do those, because, you don't even want to know. You don't want to even hear or see the things that you can. I laughed so hard just because it was like, nope, we shut that down. Or like, we did those, and I said, enough, we're not doing those anymore. And I can see why someone would feel that way, because it is, can be overwhelming. And at the same time, I know it is absolutely necessary. Yeah. I know that we have to do it. And if we keep at it and we actually show that we are listening, that's one of the big things that comes out a lot in our employee feedback survey, is that I'm going to share something, but I don't necessarily feel like anything's going to change based on what I've shared. I take that to heart. I'm always looking for ways, big and small, on how we can respond and show people we heard you. This is one of the things that is an outcome based on what you told us, so that I can actually demonstrate the fact that we are listening, and that we actually take what they say seriously, and that we want to respond to their concerns and some of the challenges. That doesn't mean that I can make everything perfect. There are things that are, economic pressures, things that are outside of my control, but I'm going to do everything I can in my power to try to improve their experience at Graham Media Group. And if there are systemic issues that we're seeing, I want to fix them. I want to make their lives better, and I truly want them to thrive. I think that there's no way we're successful as an organization unless our employees are thriving.
I would agree. And people feeling heard, that's so important. I'm laughing at your 7 stages of grief, because you say it in jest, but not in jest, because I know it's real.
It's real.
It's real. And also, I think that it is just so meaningful that you could have that same reaction as the CEO that you talked. You could have said, I can't take it, like no more. Yeah. Maybe every other year, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But, because culture is such a focus and your people's opinions are so valued, you do it again and you do it again, and you take action, and people feel listened to. So that's not easy. That's not easy at all.
3,600 open-ended answers on an employee feedback surveys.
And you probably read every one, didn't you?
I did. I have, and some of them aren't some of them aren't that pretty. So it's tough. But then there's always, and I think it's natural. Human nature is that there could have been 10 really great ones, and then there's one bad one, and the 10 great ones are just it's the bad one that sticks with me. But that's the way it should be. I think, right? That's one of the reasons why I'm in the role I am. And if I can't handle getting some real serious, honest feedback from our employees, then I'm not in the right role.
Right. Or even why ask the question? I mean,
absolutely.
Right? You're asking the question. Yep. And because your goal is this thriving culture, when you read the 9 positive responses, while they feel good, I would assume you're probably like, as it should be, as it should be, as it should be. And then that one negative one that keeps you up at night, it's because that's not in the plan. That's not your intention, and that's hard.
Yeah, we've talked, I think I've talked to you a lot about this over the years too, is that everyone thinks that culture is, having ice cream with sprinkles on Friday. We're having puppies and pizza next week, and we're doing all of these fun, cool things. It's one of the things that you learn too, looking at tech. And I think a lot of kind of legacy businesses would, go and visit a cool office of a tech startup, and they had pinball machines and, where they were playing ping pong, and they had, kegs of beer on Fridays, and everyone thought, well, that's what's going to make this amazing culture. And while all of those things are fun and good, I think that they can't replace deep-seated issues in organizations, like I said, that we are, faced with when we're talking about an imbalance of workload and the fact that we don't hold people accountable, or maybe we're letting high performers stick around that are not good for our culture. And, that's the only way that you're going to be able to figure out those things are by listening and by doing things like employee feedback surveys.
That's exactly right. And things like puppies and pizza, or the pinball machines or ping pong tables, things like that, it's more of a burnout fix that leaders are looking for. Like, people are feeling burned out, let's create a little fun. Or people are working so many hours, they're not making it home like they should. So let's give them a little something fun here. Both are fine, but you're exactly right. It totally misses the heart of how you improve culture. And I love the way you've really tied it to listening. Speaking of listening, I would imagine we have other executives who are going to listen to this conversation. And I'm wondering, is there a simple shift that you could recommend, something that someone listening can do, maybe big, maybe small, just to maybe become a better listener with the ultimate goal of being a stronger culture leader?
Well, I already mentioned one of the tools that we've learned about and now implement across the organization that we found out about through Up Your Culture, and that was a growth guide. Mm-hmm. And the thing, it doesn't have to be the exact format for which we do it, but it really is just making it something that you do on a regular basis. I think, annually I sit down with my leaders and again, have a check-in with them about nothing other than their career, what they want to do, what makes them feel successful in their career, what are ways that I can help them grow, how can I assist if there's training that they need, all of those things that I think can truly support the fact that I care about their development and I care about them being able to go on to the next phase of their career, or I care about helping them achieve those goals that they've laid out for themselves. So something, again, it comes down to being intentional and making it a priority, and not doing it one year, not doing it the next. I think that it's the consistency that shows that you're real serious about caring about your employees and what matters most to them. So making it a priority and making it happen on an ongoing basis, and making sure that you don't skip it, and that it's something that you do often, and that people can count on that you showing them that it truly is a priority for you.
I love that. It's such an investment in your people. And what I'm not hearing is you tying it to any kind of performance reviews. This is not a time to discuss their performance or where they're lacking. This is, I think you use the word, it shows that you care about them, and you're supporting their growth. You're really investing in them. It's a great takeaway. I agree. If somebody listened to this and they did nothing else, they would definitely end up further ahead in the future. So thank you. And thank you, Catherine, for taking the time to share your insights and experiences with us. Like I said, I've just been so looking forward to this conversation. I think you've reminded anyone who's tuning in that listening isn't just about collecting feedback, collecting data. It's really about creating trust. It's about fueling growth and creating a sense of belonging. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to do this today. It was, like I always say, there's so much I need to learn on an ongoing basis, and being reminded of what really matters in a leadership role actually is something that I think people like me that are in these roles, you need to be reminded of often. And so this is a great conversation and reminding me that I need to get all my growth guides done.
Good. That's great. I'm glad. All right. And then for those listening, you're going to probably want to connect with Catherine if you haven't already. So we'll include her LinkedIn profile in the show notes. You can link to Graham Media Group or directly to her. There's a lot of good stuff there that you will be able to follow, learn about all the good work that they're doing. And then I'm also going to add a link to an interactive culture health quiz so that you can take a couple minutes, see how your organization measures up, discover maybe some of the steps that you can take to strengthen engagement and trust. So thank you, Catherine, and thank you everyone for joining us for another cup of Culture Over Coffee. Thanks so much for spending time with us on Culture Over Coffee. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to subscribe and join us for every episode. For more helpful information about company culture and employee engagement, visit us at upyourculture.com.